Welcome to John Fallon's Indie Film NYC podcast, where we help filmmakers merge the art and business of independent filmmaking. I'm your host, John Fallon. Welcome to episode 13 of the podcast. Today, I've got an interview with independent filmmaker Ken Feinberg about his career in acting, teaching acting to young performers in Atlanta, and his upcoming feature film, Santa's Boot Camp. In 2005, after years of working mainly as an actor in Los Angeles, Ken relocated to Atlanta and founded the Creative Studios of Atlanta, where he had the opportunity to be part of the lives of many people looking to break into acting. As part of the course for the Creative Studios of Atlanta, the students get the opportunity to be the lead role in their own short film at or near the end of every semester. With the number of students that attend Ken's courses, that means an upward of 20 short films being produced each semester. Having gone through that process a few times, Ken decided it would be an interesting experiment to instead make one feature film that all the students could participate in. The result of that experiment was Santa's Boot Camp. Santa's Boot Camp gave these young actors the experience of working through a larger story and provided them with a valuable on-set experience that's not easy to come by. In addition, Ken was able to bring in more seasoned actors for the adult roles of the film, and was even able to convince Eric Roberts to take on a key role. As you'll hear in our conversation, this film was no exception to the difficulties that almost all indie filmmakers face when they are financing, shooting, and distributing their film. There were many challenges that faced this film, and Ken gives us an unfiltered look at how those challenges played out. Obviously, Ken is hopeful that Santa's Boot Camp will appeal to a great number of people, and that hearing his story on the podcast will make you interested enough to check it out. But as a teacher, he also wants to help his fellow filmmakers. So if you're trying to finance a project, about to go into production, or looking to distribute a completed film, if the story of Ken's trials, tribulations, and ultimate success can guide or help you in any way, then sharing his story will have been worth it. Hi everybody, I'm here today with Ken Feinberg from Atlanta, a filmmaker from Atlanta. How you doing today, Ken?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm great. It's really exciting to talk to you. I hear that you've got some really fun stuff going on in Atlanta, and before we delve into kind of your newest, biggest project, tell me about what you're doing in Atlanta and how you're helping filmmakers down there.
Well, I lived in New York and then Los Angeles for many years. I was an actor on Star Trek and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Charmed and things like that, where they needed big demons and bikers and convicts because I'm 6'4" with a shaved head. And after so many years of being that mean guy, I said, I need to do something more creative than just come in and be the mean guy and kill somebody today. So I came back home to Atlanta and opened an acting studio where I've been training actors for the last 10 years. And many of the actors have gone on to work in film and television and series regulars and star and stuff. And some in L.A., some in New York on Broadway, and some here locally in Atlanta.
Nice. So how did you transition from acting into filmmaking as more of a producer director, or was that always part of what you were doing?
Well, it's interesting. I grew up as a child. I was an actor, and then when I went to college, I majored in filmmaking. So I started making films in college and acting in other people's student films and while being in theater. And then after college, I had a video production company, and I was still acting on the side in theater in Atlanta. And then one day I said, let me go pursue my dream, which took me to New York and then to Los Angeles. And while I was in L.A., I was in several different repertory theater companies, and one day we were producing a show, and the actors came to me and said, the director has quit the play. Will you direct the show? I said, no, I'm not a director. They wouldn't take no for an answer. Finally, I said, okay. So I went in and I basically kind of started directing like I would as an actor. I started asking them questions about their character choices. What do you want? Why are you here? How do you feel about, what are you feeling right now at this moment? How to express that, and just sort of guiding them through that sort of process, and then talking to the set design and lighting design people and saying, this is the kind of feeling I want to evoke, this is the kind of quality I want to feel when the audience is here, and I let them sort of do the work. And that style sort of worked out for me because it let everybody be creative. The lighting people were creative with how to light the set. I wasn't telling, all right, hang this light here, hang the Fresnel over there, hang the Lico there, and because they go, well, why do you need me if you know where you want all the lights to go?
Right.
You know? So that was just kind of a natural thing that came to me, and that started a series of directing a lot of plays in LA, and then later in Atlanta, I directed the Atlanta premiere of the Broadway show's Talk Radio, which you see behind my head here, and also the Atlanta premiere of the Broadway show Death and the Maiden, which was a really cool show. And I also directed in LA some original shows at Stella Adler Theater and the Long Beach Playhouse, and also I directed a hit show in LA called A Tribute to Saturday Night Live, which was a big hit back in the day in LA. So I was directing theater. I was even artistic director of a theater company for a few years.
Okay. And
then in '99, I directed my first short film since college, and you actually directed it on film, which is a novelty. I directed several things, and then over time, that just sort of grew, with my knowledge of screenwriting, my knowledge of directing, my knowledge of acting, just sort of all melded together after a while.
What was what was that first film you did?
It was called Coming and Going.
Okay.
And it premiered over at the Rhode Island International Film Festival. And since then, I've had four of the shorts premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in France, which is pretty cool. And I've had films, all different festivals and stuff. But what's really neat is this feature film that's coming out on November the 15th. Just has been winning some awards on the festival circuit, which is really nice. And that's get distribution, which is what every filmmaker wants, is to get it out there. I mean,
Right.
In an ideal world, people invest money in your film, and then you turn around and you give them that money back.
Right.
And you put some in your pocket, hopefully. That's the goal, to be creative and make a living doing it. And so I've sort of been building up to that for a long time. I train actors and screenwriters and directors here in Atlanta, but mostly I train actors. And part of the training is we produce original films so they get experience being on set. Because I can tell you what to do and show you what to do. I mean, I can teach. If I was a swim coach, I could say, this is how you swim. I could tell you. I could get in the water, show you. But until you actually swim, we don't know if you're a good swimmer until you get in the water.
Sure.
And so that's one reason why I produce these short films. So the actors, they study with me for at least a year. And so I call it their final exam. They have to get the script, break it down, prepare it, come to set, go through wardrobe, go through makeup, come on set, go through rehearsal, go through blocking, and then when the camera turns on and the clapstick claps, you've got to do your job. We find out a lot in the moment of truth. Can you deliver it? Whether it's a comedy, whether it's a drama, whatever it is, they have to do their work.
And so that's part of the Creative Studios of Atlanta?
Yes, and I'll tell you our big news this week. Big news, one of our graduates just signed a deal with Disney to star in their next feature film, which is a remake of A Wrinkle in Time. And she's going to be starring with Oprah and Reese Witherspoon. And she's playing the lead role. Her name is Storm Reed, and she's also one of the elves in Santa's Boot Camp.
Great. So why did you start Creative Studios of Atlanta, and how did you grow that? How long has it been around?
We're in our 11th year of Creative Studios of Atlanta. Started kind of by accident because I came back to Atlanta and I got to figure out what I'm going to do to pay the rent. And I was teaching acting classes in LA in Beverly Hills with a friend of mine, and I started teaching that because one of the things that I really had to learn as an actor is how to market myself, because in my heart I wanted to play Puck, from Midsummer's Night Dream.
Okay.
But being 6'4", no one's ever going to cast me in the role of Puck. So I had this idea of who I was and what I wanted to play, and then I found that it was incongruent with how the rest of the world saw me. And so I had to learn how to market what I had. And when I teach actors, I say it's a combination of your look and your personality. So that's what you're marketing. You got to find congruency there. And so, if I was an angry, mean person, maybe I'd still be in LA, playing those kinds of roles. But I feel like I'm a creative person, and so creatively it was unfulfilling after so many years of doing that.
Sure.
And so I started teaching that marketing classes to people in Atlanta. How can you market yourself to get a job? And from there, I started training actors about on-camera audition skills and script analysis and preparing and doing auditions and performing on camera. And so it kind of developed into a year-long curriculum, a teaching method I call the buffet, meaning I put all these different things out and let people try them, because acting is very personal, very creative, and there's not one method or technique that works for everybody. And so one of the reasons why I think I'm pretty good at directing is when I was in acting school, I wanted to be an actor so bad that I would do every little thing my acting teacher was telling me. This was a professional acting academy in Hollywood, but I was too much in my head. I was thinking I need to be doing this, need to be that, and my acting got kind of lost because I was so cerebral. But in the process, I learned a lot about directing, because do this, do that, all this sort of stuff. And I finally had to sort of step away from that school and clear my head. And that's when I started booking. I started getting back into the moment and the feeling and being present and putting my personality into it, as opposed to all the technical things that you can learn, because you could get lost in acting theory for many, many years if you wanted to, if that makes sense.
Sure, yeah. So
did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you know, it sounds like it's more than just an acting school. It's really a kind of a all-encompassing, creative.
It is, and a lot of the people that come through there, they don't just get acting skills; they also get some life skills too. About you know, I say one of the side effects is you become a better listener. You know, one of the side effects is you feel okay with being yourself at 100% in any situation. You know, I get emails from people, you know, from parents who say to me, you know, my kid's not acting anymore, but they're excelling in this, and they credit the class to really giving them the confidence to say, I'm okay with being me, and here's what I want to do.
Sure.
Which is great. It's a great skill for anybody to have, whether you're acting or not. And, you know, acting, I don't know if you know much about the acting business, but it's not getting any easier because there's so many people trying to get into the acting business, number one, and there's so many producers trying to get actors to work for less money. So, you know, it's a cycle. It's a process that, you know, you kind of have to be really good and really on top of your game to excel and succeed. It can be done because we have students that have done it.
Sure.
You know, I've got some students who are series regulars on television right now, and I've got students who've gone into music and they're getting successful in music. So it just kind of depends on what your goals are and how willing you are to commit to it, how willing you do the work.
So what are some of those things that you're, you know, marketing wise, like how are you teaching them to cut through the noise?
Cut through the noise, meaning all the negative dialogue?
No, more like you're saying, there's so many faces out there. How are you teaching them to be that face that rises above the crowd? You know.
Well, I teach them, number one, the vast majority of actors don't take the time to listen to their elders and learn what they need to do to succeed in the business. A lot of people think it's an art. It's a business. You got to have a business mind about it. You're a product, not a talent. You're selling something. You don't make any money if you don't make a sale. Okay, so how do you sell something? Well, you get really good at what it is, and you offer something nobody else is offering. So, and preparation is key. And if you don't know how to prepare, then you're not going to succeed. I just gave a lecture last week at a public library here in town about adapting a novel to a screenplay. And the specific novel they were talking about was Mystic River, a movie that with Sean Penn and Tom Robbins both won Oscars for their acting. And in the behind the scenes that they had all the audience watch before I spoke, Laura Linney says Sean Penn came to set more prepared than any actor I've ever worked with. He did his homework, and he came in and was ready to go, and he was open to suggestions, but like he really studied and worked and prepared to get to that place of doing the work. And a lot of people think it's fun and it's a game and it's glamour. It's really a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You work long hours, and you better be good, and you better have a nice personality, because people don't want to work with people who aren't nice, and people don't want to work with people who aren't good. And so you get a reputation in the industry, how well you're prepared, how well you present yourself, how how good you are, how not you are to be around other people, and those people are the ones that rise to the top because they give them a script and they do something with it, and it's really, really good.
Nice, yeah,
And
no.
so I tell them this: when you go into an audition, it doesn't matter who's waiting outside because you're not in competition with anybody waiting to audition. It matters what you bring into the room, how creative you are into the room. You come in and you say to the director, this is what I would do if you cast me in the role. I mean, you think Denzel goes in the room and says, I'm going to show you guys a little something. If you don't like it, I'll change it. Just tell me what you want me to do. No, Denzel goes, let me show you how I did this scene. Right. So sit down and let me show you how it's done. So I try to get them to have that attitude of, I'm going to create my version of this character. I'm going to present it to you as my creative art, and then you can like it, or you can ask me to change it, or you can not like it. But you got to be okay with because it's about the work. It's not about you.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice for, all creatives in filmmaking. I mean, directors certainly can fall into that same trap, of not being prepared. I mean, all those things apply to all the creative fields. So I think that's some really great life lessons you're teaching, the up and coming actors, and who knows, maybe we'll have lot more great actors coming out of Atlanta.
Let's hope so. What's nice is it's kind of a compliment when I see some of my former students start teaching acting classes. And I go, oh, okay, cool.
So let's talk about, let's switch back to some of your filmmaking endeavors. So just in general, when you got into producing and directing, was it always your goal to be more of an independent filmmaker, or did you try maybe the studio system, or tell me a little bit about kind of who you are as a filmmaker?
Well, I'm definitely independent at this moment, and I think being independent gives me more creative freedoms. I'd be interested in exploring the studio route, but I know that people that I know that do that, certainly their salary is a little bit higher.
Sure.
But their creativity is a little bit less. Mm-hmm. So there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off there between, am I a product selling, working a job, or am I a creative entrepreneur making creative art? So there's both sides. Just like star actors, they do the big budget tentpole movies for the paycheck, but then they look for a creative project that they can do to exercise their creativity. Mm-hmm. And so to find that balance, one of my heroes was always Mike Nichols, and it'll be really cool to direct a feature film that has some sort of aesthetic to it that you can sink your teeth into, and then go direct a Broadway show, and really get into it with the actors. I think coming from an acting background, I really enjoy the process of creating characters and exploring the emotions of a character arc and things like that, more so than the intangibles of post-production and visual effects and things like that. In Santa's Boot Camp, there's over 200 visual effects that we really didn't quite plan on when we set out, but we learned we really need some visual effects here. So we had to go dig that out. And so that was something new that I had to learn about.
Nice. So tell me a little bit how Santa's Boot Camp came about. Who's you wrote it, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Santa's Boot Camp came around because after a few years of having Film Academy and producing original short films, the first 2 years of Film Academy, we produced original films that's one film that starred everybody. And so we've got a film that's 35 minutes long, and one film's 50 minutes long in those first 2 years. And one of them actually premiered in Cannes, which is really cool. And then the third year, my editor said to me, all the short films and commercials and other production that we did in the class, we could have made a feature film. And so we said, okay, well, let's actively pursue this year of Film Academy by making a feature film and see if we can't find a story that would be appealing to people outside of us in Film Academy. And so I came in originally with this kind of funny idea about Santa Claus getting audited by the IRS. Which was kind of a funny idea, and I had a few writer friends that met with me, and they go, well, if it's a kids' film, maybe not the IRS, but we like the idea of Santa Claus, as a universal icon, as a celebrity, because everybody knows who that is. What would happen to Santa to cause him conflict? And I said, well, if his elves went on strike, he would certainly be in a mess. And you go, well, yeah, and why would Santa's elves go on strike? Well, if kids are so bratty, self-centered, and entitled, maybe they'd just get tired of making toys for kids that don't appreciate what they're getting. Okay. And so that was the nucleus of the story where it was born. And so then, had a couple other writers contribute their versions of the script, and I took all those versions and rewrote everything into my vision of the film. And that's what we filmed. And we filmed the first year, and we realized we didn't have enough money to shoot the whole film. Okay. So we shot about 20 minutes of the film, and we took it over to the Cannes Film Festival to see if we could, sell it. And we got with a company who, right away goes, oh, yeah, this is a great film. Call our office right away, and let's get started. Says, okay, being a little naive. Right. Okay, so I signed this agreement, and now I realized, in retrospect, that it was a terrible deal. It was a terrible situation. I can give your filmmakers details about what to look out for because I've been there. And so they wanted a 15-year deal with a $75,000 what do they call it? Marketing fee. And they wanted 25% of the film, which they agreed to go down to 20% of the film. And they said, well, you need to get a star name in the film as a cameo. And they said, here's a list of 35 actors. So I looked at the list, and we contacted 3 people on the list. We contacted Danny DeVito, John Lovitz, and Eric Roberts. And Danny DeVito was too busy. Sure. And John Lovitz is like, I need at least this amount of money to even show up. It's like, well, that's way out of our budget. And Eric Roberts said, okay, I'll do it. I said, okay, great. So Eric Roberts came in. He was our mall Santa, and he was fabulous to work with. He was hilarious in the movie. He's sort of like the anti-mall Santa, and he's just funny. And the first cut put together, there's like 15 minutes of Eric Roberts being really, really funny as the mall Santa. It's like, this is too long because the movie's not about the mall Santa. Right. We got to get to the real story, but he's there to sort of set up the story. And we put some more stuff in the credits at the end because it's just so good.
But that's something you don't see too often is Eric Roberts being funny either. He's not it's really kids known for that.
And we screened at a festival in L.A. this summer, and actually Eric was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in the film festival, and he and his wife came to the red carpet, and his wife said to me, Eric doesn't get offered to do children's movies, and he just jumped at the opportunity to do it. He really loves doing that stuff. He has a children's foundation that he supports, and it's just nice for him to do something different than what he normally does.
Right.
And, if you get a chance to see it, you'll laugh because he's just so funny.
That's so good to hear. That's nice to hear.
So, this company that we signed with, they're giving us all this advice, and they go, can you help us, with some money? Because we need to go ahead and shoot the rest of this film before these kids grow up, because the kids are growing.
Right.
And they refuse to pay for any of the cameo stuff. They refuse to pay for anything. And so finally, my parents actually pitched in and gave us some money, which was very kind of them. And we shot the rest of the film. And then it was in post-production. We cut a trailer and never heard anything from this group again. And then about 9 months later, we needed post-production money, of course, right? Because unfortunately we spent more than we thought we were going to spend in production. And we had all these visual effects that we needed to do and sound mixing and color mixing and visual effects and whatnot. And right. They're refusing to help. And then this company says to me, Ken, we're not going to give you any money to finish this film. Even though earlier they said we can't help you with production, but we can help you with post-production. So be wary of that. If someone says we can help you with post-production, we got into post-production, we're not going to give you any money. We're not going to pre-sell anything. We're not going to what else did they say? We're not going to ask anybody to invest money in your film. We don't think your film's going to make any money. I said, well, then give me the rights to my film back so I can go find someone who wants to sell my film.
Right.
And they go, oh, you can have the rights back. Just give us $20,000. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. If I had $20,000, I'd be finishing my film.
Right.
And so it just became this tug of war. I said, no, you got to give us $20,000. And maybe I should have just said, cease and desist, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a problem with that, you can sue me, but you're not doing anything to help me sell my film. You're not doing anything to help me finish the film, and you're actually, standing in the way, and you're actually trying to extort money from me because you can't sell my film. And they sent over their very first poster for Santa's Boot Camp, and it had barbed wire on it. I'm like, this is a kid's film. This is not a thriller. This is, So after 2 years, I had to file a lawsuit against them. And that was the only time they took me seriously.
Sure.
And they were actually in default, and my attorney, what happened was I went and met him in Cannes, and I said, we've got other people, hang on. Before I get to that, a producer friend of mine said to me, let me see if I can get someone to take the foreign distribution and give you the money to finish the film, and then they can have the foreign, and this company can have the domestic, and everybody happy. I said, okay, great. So I got with this other film sales agent, and they went to Cannes, and like the second day of Cannes, they call me up and they say, we just sold the French territory for $45,000. Do you think we should take it? I'm like, yeah. And they say, can you deliver the film by some date in July? I'm like, if I get the funds, I can finish the film, yes. Sure. So like, okay, well, I'm going to put this date in the contract so that, we can make the deal. I'm like, okay, great. But she signed the deal, but she never sent us any of the money. And so July came around and said, you're in default because you didn't deliver the film. I said, well, I told you I couldn't deliver it until I got the money. You came on board to help us finish the film with the funding, either by giving us money or having sales contracts that we could get a loan against, because because we delivered, then we can make good on the contracts and pay the loan off.
Right.
But they didn't keep their end of the deal either. So now here I got another sales agent who's like putting me under the wrap. And so that went on for a couple of years. And unfortunately, I finally said because she told me we made some sales. We sold, some territory for like $5,000. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! That territory normally goes for like $50,000 or $60,000. And later I find out that this company has a history of selling territories and not reporting them to the filmmaker, and they just keep the money. So unfortunately, we're kind of in litigation with this company now too. So it was kind of a mess.
Yeah.
So finally, what happened with the first company is I went and sat with them, and I said, look, I was trying to be up and up, really, and they're crooks, in my opinion, because they're just extorting money from me when they really didn't do anything. They're a sales company. They make their money when they make a sale. And really a $75,000 marketing fee is astronomical. Yeah. So, and I'll talk more about that to your filmmakers in a second. Okay. So I sat down with them and said, look, we want to get out of this deal. We want to see if we can finish the film and make some money. And they go, tell you what, Ken, you're a nice guy. Always be wary of that phrase. So you're a nice guy. Tell you what we'll do. You give us half up front. You can pay us when you make your first sale. I'm like, what if I give you half up front and then half when all the investors make their money back? Okay, we'll do that. So I went home, had my attorney draw up that agreement. Half when we make the sale, and another half when we get all the investors paid back. Well, they said no, that's not. They came back and said no, that's not good enough. We want all the money up front. Well, we just sat there at the American film market face to face, and we talked to this with the attorney on the phone, and this is how we agreed we were going to resolve the situation. And they're not agreeing. It's like, after so many times of this stuff, I said, forget it. I don't like to be that kind of person that files suits. And it only took me 3 years to file the suit. So finally I filed the suit, and we got out of it. Okay. And so then, we raised some more money. How do we raise some more money? I think it was my dad came through again. Unfortunately, he passed away, so he didn't get to see any of this excitement. But my dad didn't come through. I got an investor. Came through, and gave us some money, and we started going into visual effects, and then ended up having to farm it out to a guy in Ohio, and a guy in Minnesota, and a guy in New Orleans, a guy in LA, a guy in Atlanta. Finally we got all these visual effects put in the movie. We finished the movie, and last November we played our first film festival, the International Family Film Festival, and they honored me with the Director's Gold Award as Best Director, and was not expecting that, and I actually was moved to tears because it was just an incredible moment, a milestone in my life, that for this film that had gone through so much, that all these people trying to take money away from the film when the film wasn't even finished, to be honored in such a prestigious film festival, was just amazing. Was absolutely amazing. And actually, someone recorded my speech at the film festival. It's on a DVD extra on the DVD that's coming out.
Nice.
And so my producing partner, who was also the editor on the film, was editing a Nicolas Cage movie in L.A. I was assisting on the movie, and he came back and he said to the editor, "We won this award at the film festival." And the editor's like, "Oh, cool. Can I see your film?" I was like, "Sure." He shows it. The guy takes the film home and says, "Hey, can I show this film to a distributor friend of mine?" He goes, "Yeah." So he showed the distributor friend of mine, and the guy calls up and says, "I love Christmas films. I love your film. I want to distribute it. I want to put it out through Sony. I want it to come out next Christmas. And this is the only Christmas film I'm going to distribute this year." And I was like, great.
Yeah.
Finally somebody recognizes our talent and merits, and this is what it's supposed to be like.
Right.
So we made a deal with this company, and the film gets released November 15th through Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. It'll be at Target and Walmart and Best Buy and any place they sell DVDs, and also be on VOD, so you can watch it at home on Amazon or Hulu or whatever else they got. And the last conversation I had was, we're talking about TV, talking to Redbox, we're talking to Netflix, we're trying to get it out there, and like, great. And now I keep getting all these emails from the original sales agent: "Send us money, send us money, send us money." Like, we haven't made any money yet. We've got a deal, but that doesn't mean we've made money.
Right.
It's relentless, these hounds called sales agents. So, when you do a deal with a sales agent, make sure that your marketing fee is really low, because it's not the 90s anymore. They don't have to send all these VHS tapes around the world or DVDs around the world. Everything is streamed online. Everything is done through email. And so they spend, $5,000 for a marketing fee is plenty, because they say, well, I said, "What do you do to earn that marketing fee?" "Well, we go to the festival. We go to Cannes. We go to AFM. We go to Toronto." Like, well, you've got 50 films, and you're taking $35,000 to $75,000 from each filmmaker. You're making a pretty good living there, buddy. It's like those prices have come way down. So you can't have that marketing fee be so high. Also, you need to have transparency, which means you need to know who they're selling the film to and for how much. This company that's doing our foreign distribution absolutely refuses to tell us who they sold the film to and for how much. So she could have sold the film to this territory for $1 million, and we'd never know. Okay? And when the Sony distributor called the sales agent to say, "Hey, let's put the film out through Sony for foreign, and we can all make money together," she's like, "No, I've sold all the territories. There's no territories left." I'm like, "Well, what is it? Either you've sold all the territories or you haven't, because you told me you haven't sold anything. You haven't sent me any sort of quarterly updates, reports saying this is what you've sold and for how much." So you've got to get those reports. And most sales representatives want to say quarterly report 60 days after the quarter ends, which means it's going to be 5 months before you see any money. Well, that may have worked in the 90s, but in this day of age with electronic bank transfers and whatnot, you get an email, the money's in the account. They're not sending you a check and you have to go to the bank and wait for it to clear.
Right.
That money's transferred immediately. And so I would suggest in your deal, tell the sales agent, you need to be notified within 48 hours when the sale is made and to whom and for how much. And because you're getting a percentage and they're getting a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And then they need to pay you that money, within 2 weeks, I would say, a week to 2 weeks, because there's no reason for that money to sit in their bank account for 5 months and draw interest. It's your money. It's your movie.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of these sales agents have been making money, by selling hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars worth of film sales, sticking them in an account and drawing interest for 5 months before they pay out the money. And we know how that works.
Sure.
So in this day and age, I suggest to filmmakers, don't be taken advantage of. Make sure you know who they're selling it to and make sure they pay you the money on time.
Right. Yeah, and I think, you've got to bring in a lawyer that specializes in distribution contracts sooner rather than later. I mean, I think.
Well, I'll tell you this: the person that helped me the most was not a lawyer.
No,
it was a producer mentor of mine, and she looked at that contract and said, "Oh no! You got to have this, you got to have that, you got to you got to put all these things in here,
right?
Otherwise, because she's been screwed by sales agents too."
Sure.
So she knows what to look for, and you have to have a mentor in this business.
So yeah.
So otherwise, my mentor, her first film was distributed by a major distribution company, and she didn't make any money off of it. Her film had, major stars in it, and the sales agent one time got an award or something. He said, "I want to thank this person for my condo in downtown London and my home in the south of Spain." And that's how much money the sales agent made, right. And the filmmaker got nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you hear those horror stories all the time, and the lesson is that she had been through it, so she knew what to look out for. She'd been through it,
right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I wish I'd gone to her sooner. That's my only regret. If I'd gone to her sooner, she could have said, "Oh no, you need to cross this out, you change this."
Right.
And so they have these contracts made up by their lawyers to have all the advantages.
Absolutely.
And so you need to figure out what that is. Otherwise, no need to go there.
Yeah.
If you can find a way to get around the sales agents and get directly to the distributor, that's even better.
Sure, yeah.
Because if you can get directly to the distributor, then there's no middleman to take your money and hold on to it.
Yeah, so I mean, those are some deep lessons for filmmakers on being, the muddy waters, the murky waters of sales agents. I mean, they could tank a project if they're not careful.
I'll tell you something else I learned. I personally, of course, every filmmaker feels this way,
mm-hmm.
but I personally feel like my film would do well in theaters because it's a family film made for kids and families,
mm-hmm.
and quite frankly, there's very few of those films being made for families right now.
Yeah.
And so I felt like this is a live action animated movie like Minions or whatever,
mm-hmm.
that's funny for kids, funny for adults. It's got a little moral lesson to it about being nicer to other people. And every time I talk to someone about the film, they go, "Well, who's in the film?" I go, "Well, Eric Roberts in the film." "Well, Eric Roberts is in 800 films right now. I got 3 Eric Roberts films right now. Who's in your film?" I said, "Well, I got this kid actress who was in 12 Years a Slave. I got this kid from The Walking Dead. I got this kid from Nickelodeon. I got They go, "Well, nobody knows who they are, and so you need an A-list actor at least to make a cameo." So just for you filmmakers to know, what I'm hearing from these sales reps is that they don't care if your film is good or bad, which is mm-hmm. good for you bad filmmakers. What they care about is your poster art and who's in your film.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a slick-looking poster art and you've got at least one recognizable name actor in your movie, that's something they can sell. It doesn't matter how good your movie is, I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's not about the art and the craft. It's about the business.
And that's when it comes to, you're talking specifically sales agents and
typically sales agents who go to
mm-hmm.
markets and say, I've got a Jackie Chan movie. I've got a Judge Reinhold movie.
Sure.
Whatever it is. Judge Reinhold, is he still working? Well, yeah, he's in my movie. Well, yeah.
So you're releasing this kind of worldwide through streaming services and DVD in November.
Well, right now it's domestic. English-speaking Canada
Okay.
and United States. November 15th through Sony. The foreign is still kind of tangled up.
Okay.
It would be nice if we could untangle that and get it out to the rest of the world. Hopefully that'll happen soon because it's traumatic, and the person I'm dealing with, when you meet this person, you think they're a wonderful, nice person, and they're honest and they're straightforward, and but they sit there, they cross from you, and they look you in the eye, and they say this and they say this, and you go, well, remember when you said that? No, I don't remember saying that. So if someone says something to you, make sure you write it down. Make sure they sign off on it. Okay.
Sure.
Well, you said you'd agreed to lower the marketing fee. No, I didn't. Okay, so I'm in the meeting. Okay,
Right.
So let's recap. You're going to lower the marketing fee. Write it down. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. Okay, now you need to sign off on that to make it official. Don't take anybody at their word. Right. Unfortunately, it's come to that.
Yeah.
I grew up in a generation. My dad is like, you look someone in the eye, you shake your hand, and your word means something. If your word doesn't mean anything, what else does? There's an attorney I'm working with in LA who specializes in that, and they've sort of helped me with this new contract, which has been great. Even though I still didn't sort of win the contract, ultimately I think I win in distribution in the fact that I'm dealing with my films coming out through Sony.
Right.
And that's a huge deal for anybody to say, yeah, my feature film is being distributed by Sony. So we thank the universe for that gift. And hopefully audiences will like it. Everywhere it's screened, people have had positive things to say about it. We've got a Dove Foundation Award for family-friendly content for all ages. We just, a couple weeks ago, won the best family feature film at the San Diego International Kids Film Festival. And so, we've gotten some awards along the way, and people seem to like it. And one of the things that's really nice about the film is if you can watch it with adults, you can watch it with teenagers, watch it with kids. And one of the things that's nice about it's not one of those films you watch it and then it's over and like, okay, I'll go do something else. But you can actually kind of turn to somebody and have a conversation about, oh, what do you think about this? Because ultimately what happens is these kids are so bratty, self-centered, entitled, the ones sitting on Eric Roberts' lap, that the Santa's elves decide to go on strike just days before Christmas. And Santa's so desperate, he brings in 6 not-so-nice teenagers to help him, get ready for Christmas. And, of course, teenagers don't want to help anybody. They just want to do their own thing, so they're fighting amongst themselves. And they finally get a plan. They're going to escape from the boot camp. They try to steal Santa's sleigh. And, of course, when that doesn't work, Santa sends them to go watch Naughty Nice videos. Nice. And they think that's all fun and games because they're watching all these other kids doing things and they have to vote whether they're naughty or nice. And everything's all fun until they see videos of themselves being not so nice to other people.
Sure. And
they have to vote themselves naughty. And from that moment on, they kind of they see that how they treat other people, they're a choice of.
Sure.
And so it kind of, my 6-year-old daughter said to me, hey, Dad, I know what your film's about. I go, what's it about? It's about kids being nicer to each other. I said, okay, I'll take that. But it really kind of makes you think your choice is what you choose to do, how you handle situations. And so I think that, sometimes kids want to talk about that when they see that. Even adults see that.
Sure.
Because there's a maturation process that happens to these teenagers in the movie where they see that the world is more than just their own little world, and they can accomplish more by cooperating with other people and creating for the greater good and doing something to help as opposed to doing something to harm, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good message for everybody, but for definitely for kids growing up. I mean,
There's a few jokes in there for the adults. There's a moment where Santa's really stressed out and Mrs. Claus comes in with a tray of milk and cookies, and Santa looks at her and goes, I need something stronger. Why don't you bring me some chocolate milk? And that's the way he delivers it is just so great.
And do you act in it as well, or did you?
No, I'm not acting in this film. It's mostly kids.
Okay.
It's got Eric Roberts as the mall Santa. It's got Doug Kay, who's a regular at the Atlanta Shakespeare Tavern here in Atlanta, as Santa Claus. And Santa is written kind of Shakespearean. So when you watch Santa perform, it's like you're watching a Shakespeare actor, because he is a Shakespeare actor. But it's just his whole delivery is just really, really nice take on the character. I really like it a lot. And there's, a couple of adults scattered around here and there, but
Sure.
mostly it's the teenagers and the kids who carry the story. And they
Nice.
do a real nice job of doing it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I want to see it with my kids. So I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old that I think will love it.
Oh, great! They'll like it. I know even on the rough cuts, they would watch it and they would watch it over and they would watch it over and they quote the movie.
Nice.
Even we have an Atlanta premiere tomorrow, and my 9-year-old's like, "I'm gonna go do something else. I've seen your movie, Dad." It's like, okay.
They turned into teenagers real quick now, huh?
Yeah, because we have. I mean, through all the stages of production, we have a DVD.
Sure.
In the car, and they're watching it and they're quoting it, and
Right.
so they see it before the visual effects, after the visual effects. It doesn't make any difference to them.
Of course.
They still quote all the lines. There's one line that they quote all the time. They think is so funny. There's three elves that work in Santa's office, and one of them says something like, talking about the Easter Bunny. It says, you think we have it bad? You should see some of the guidelines the Easter Bunny has to follow. But I suppose they're right. Can you imagine if the kids woke up to a giant rabbit hopping through their house? And one of the other elves goes, ha, 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 ha. And the other elf goes, that would freak me out. And the three of them just quote that over and over and over.
Freak me out.
Yeah.
I can see that catching on with the kids.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Do you have another film that you want to do with the Creative Studio of Atlanta, or
Yes.
what have you learned from this that maybe you're not gun shy? You're gonna do another one.
I'll do another one, but I don't know if I'll do another low budget one.
Okay.
Just because it's so much work.
Sure.
There's a thing that filmmakers say, and that is, films are not made; they're forced into being.
Sure.
And if you've ever made a film, you know that you just make a film. You really have to champion it, and you have to stand up for it, and you have to pull it through. And even when you can't just settle for okay, whatever. Every year we make original. Now after Santa's boot camp, but now we make short films where every actor is the star of their own short film, as opposed to a feature film where some of the actors are leads in the film and they're in a bunch of scenes, and some of the actors are in a few scenes, and some of the actors are in one scene. It gives everybody experience being on the set, but it really was kind of distribution-wise. Some of the actors, the more experienced ones, got the larger roles, and some of the newer ones got some of the smaller roles. I mean, experience-wise, they got that experience.
Yeah.
However, now what we do judiciously, we kind of give everyone the star of their own short.
Sure.
And so, one year we made 33 shorts in 2 weekends just because we had to.
Wow.
Last year we made 14 shorts in 2 weekends. Wow. There's a little more breathing room.
Sure. But I mean, still, there's a lesson to be learned on either. I mean, obviously, you want to give them the screen time and as part of kind of the development of them, but to be even a small role on a big film shows them
absolutely.
How there are no small parts. What?
Well, the little girl that plays Twinkle in our movie, she's one of the leads in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
She's also, for anyone who's a Hunger Games fan, she's one of the actors from the Hunger Games. She plays President Snow's granddaughter in Hunger Games Catching Fire and Hunger Games Mockingjay. Mm. And so, we've got some people that, Elijah Marcano is recurring on The Walking Dead, if any Walking Dead fans are watching this.
Nice.
So, and we have a kid who's on Ricky, Nicky, Dicky, and Dawn. We have a kid who just booked Helen Hunt's daughter on her new show, that's a new pilot. I forget what it's called. Not Halt and Catch Fire, something else, something like that. So we've got some kids that are doing stuff. We've got a kid that's one of my students booked Sully. That's the number one in the theaters now, but he didn't act in Santa's boot camp.
Okay.
So one of the kids just did a star in a movie called Christmas Wish, which is coming out on DVD in just a couple weeks. Nice. So some of the kids that come through go on and do some cool things, which is really nice because ultimately it's about that. Now for me, of course, I've got to train this year's actors and shoot them in short films in the spring. We've got a few other family films that we would like to make. So we're in the process of trying to meet people to maybe put some funding in on that. Mm-hmm. To make those projects happen. Santa Claus came up to me after our cast and crew screening last December, and he paid me a very nice compliment. He said, "It turned out really nice. If you do another low-budget Christmas film, you can count on me. I'll play Santa again." And I just said, "Doug, I'm not doing another low budget film. It only took me 3.5 years to make this one.
Yeah.
So it's either good, fast, or cheap. You can't have all three. You have to take two of the three.
Right.
So we saved a lot of money. But we also, if we had some money, maybe we could have gotten some tax credits or something that would help us. Or, we were ambitious with this film. It's a small film that turned out to be a lot bigger than we imagined it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you're only as good as your equipment. You're only good as your budget. Now, you can be wasteful if you have a large budget, but all by the same token, when you have a finite budget, it really forces your hand as a producer and a director, saying, okay, I need to justify this expenditure, I need to justify that expenditure, I need to make sure that I save money. And also, for any filmmakers watching this, I highly recommend that you save money for your publicity. Mm-hmm. Some people say you need to take half of your money and put it in production and the other half into publicity, and set that aside before you even start. And I would probably be inclined to agree with that, because here we are, right. We've got momentum coming up, and now I'm in a process. I'm still raising money to keep the publicity going, because we've got the word coming out, and mm-hmm. We want to make sure that our publicity campaign keeps rolling. Make sure people know about it. And so I'm still. When you're a producer, you're always in that mode, unfortunately.
Sure.
So make sure, if you're a filmmaker watching this, make sure that you judiciously set aside money for post-production, because that's where a lot of films fail, is because they put all their money into production, they get ready to edit it and do post, and they run out of money. You've got to make sure you have a sound mix, because no matter how good or bad the picture is, if the sound is bad, nobody wants to watch it. Right. You can have a bad-looking film with good sound, and people will still sit there and try to watch it.
Yeah.
So make sure you have enough money to do a sound mix and do a color mix, and make sure you get your titles done nicely, mm-hmm. and make sure you have money set aside for publicity, to promote the film, to go to film festivals if you're in film festivals, to hire publicists to get the word out, that kind of stuff. Yeah. There's a lot you can do. You can't do it all yourself. Yeah. So that's my advice, my 2 cents to the filmmakers watching this. Learn from my mistakes. Otherwise, you're doomed to make them yourself.
Sure. Yeah. No. Absolutely. I mean, I think going in with a smart business plan that accounts for all that stuff is. I mean, you've got to do that, because otherwise, it's you standing on the corner. Oh, watch my movie. Because
I had a movie in Park City one year, in 2002, and you walk down the street and there's guys like minivans with the side door open with a TV inside. Hey, watch my movie! Watch my movie! Watch my movie! I'm like,
sure,
really? I think one of those guys actually got a deal. Actually,
we won't say with who.
Yeah, I won't say with who.
Well, it's great talking to you. If people want to reach out, and if they're interested in taking some classes at the studio, or if they just want to get in touch with you about the movie or anything, how can they reach you?
We have a website, creativestudiosofAtlanta.com. We have Facebook. We have a Santa's Boot Camp Facebook page. Like us there. We have the Creative Studios of Atlanta Facebook page. Mm-hmm. You could, if you want to get in touch with me, you can get in touch with me directly from our website, creativestudiosofAtlanta.com. There's a contact us, and you click on that, and you can send me an email. It'll come right to me. Especially if you're watching this and you want to throw a little money into Santa's Boot Camp right at the 11th hour, right before distribution comes out, because that's the best time to get in, right? Mm-hmm. When the movie's done, distribution's in place, and the return is going to be a smaller window than if you were the initial investor 3 years ago, right?
Well, awesome. I wish you a lot of success with the film, and it sounds like it'd be really enjoyable.
Oh, you know who I'm talking about when I say Hunger Games, right? Mike Bierman's daughter, Erica Bierman.
Erica Bierman, yeah. We spoke with Mike. I think it was episode 9 of the podcast, actually. Mike Bierman, screenwriter from Atlanta, and his daughter Erica. Yeah, so we spoke with him for quite a while. He's He's a very interesting guy. He has a lot of great information about breaking in as a screenwriter specifically, but he's a big champion of people taking control of their own careers and making their own films and stuff. So it's good
Absolutely.
to know.
He's doing that. He's doing that. He's producing some stuff now,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw him a few weeks ago at the 40-hour film project. So he's keeping busy, and Erica's fabulous in this movie. She's funny. She's scary. She's heartwarming. She's caring. I mean, she's a very talented actress, and so I'm glad this film is finally coming out and can showcase a lot of actors, even though they actually filmed it a couple years ago. So thank you so much.
All right, it's great talking to you.
All right, have a great day.
I want to thank you again for joining me for this episode of the podcast. I think the one thing that Ken's story illustrates is how much time and effort one needs to put behind a feature film. From concept to distribution, no one will care about your film more than you do, so you can never do enough to keep the project going and get the word out once the film is completed. Before we sign off, I'd like to talk to you about two things that might interest you, and it'd be great if you could check them out before our next episode. The first thing is Werner Herzog's Masterclass in Filmmaking. As you probably know, Werner Herzog is one of the most prolific filmmakers ever. Between documentaries and narrative films, Werner Herzog has produced and or directed over 60 films, including Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans with Nicolas Cage, and the multi-award-winning documentary Grizzly Man. This class is perfectly suited for those filmmakers who are still developing their skills and are looking to get into filmmaking as a career, but are still deciding if film school is right for them. The great thing about this class is that it's only $90. That's less than the price of the first 4 seasons of The Game of Thrones on Blu-ray. Classes of comparable knowledge, which are usually facilitated by people of much less artistic stature than Werner Herzog, can easily run $500, $600, or $700, making them much riskier propositions. With such an affordable cost to an introduction on expert filmmaking from a great artist, even if you decide to go to film school, the information will have you ahead of the curve when you get there. If you're a seasoned filmmaker, and especially if you're a fan of Werner Herzog's work, then there's still a lot of value and some tricks of the craft that you are likely to pick up. Again, the value versus the cost make this class unique in its scope and presentation. So if you're interested in learning more, please visit indiefilmnyc.com/masterclass, where I did a write-up on the 5 ways that this class will help you achieve success as an independent filmmaker. That's indiefilmnyc.com/masterclass. And you can sign up for the course right on the page by clicking the affiliate link image located at the top of the sidebar column or at the bottom of the page. And finally, if you're still with me, please consider subscribing to my mailing list. There are so many things vying for your attention these days, and as a valued listener, I'd love to be able to keep you up to date on the latest interviews, indie film information, and special announcements. To subscribe, please visit indiefilmnyc.com/subscribe. And thanks for listening.